Throughout my uploads, I've mentioned that I'm a volunteer at my local Free Geek. I haven't been able to go there as of late because of weather and everything else, mostly heat, and my parents just refusing to let me go and do my volunteer work. With that said, though, I have managed to at least go back to my local Free Geek to buy something. This being this Dell Optiplex, I forget what model number is in the title of the video and whatnot. And it's actually for my 3D printers and whatnot. Now, even though this is going to do mostly 3D printing tasks and whatnot, I still don't like the cooler this thing has, because this is a Dell after all, and we all know this thing has the most garbage CPU cooler in existence. It has the bane of every single Dell computer in existence. Now, ignore the video card and the RAM and everything else, because I have since upgraded this thing down the road. As far as I know, we have yet to get something like a 2080 Super. But even still, for 3D printing tasks with all the modifications I've done, it's more than enough. But obviously, I don't want this cooler. This cooler has to go. So, thanks to eBay being eBay, I bought this cooler upgrade for about 50 bucks or so, supposedly new, and I'm fairly certain it is new because the thermal paste looks, well, it's old, but it's new nonetheless. This is going to be a significant upgrade to the, POS that's currently in there. Also, you may note that I also upgraded the top exhaust fan to a 120. I printed this little adapter piece out of PEG on my Centauri Carbon, and it's been holding up the fan just fine. But obviously, before I do the swap over, we need to do a comparison. So this CPU is going to be hitting life for about 30 minutes. Now, if you're wondering what the specs are, this is what they currently are. Now, again, I have modified this thing since I got it, so I might as well go over the modifications I've done. I've upgraded the RAM to 48 gigs. I swapped out the power supply for a more standardized power supply. I obviously swapped out the original exhaust fan for a 120. I have three 2 terabyte mechanicals, and of course my RTX 2080 Super. For 3D printing tasks and eventually theoretically doing CAD work on this thing for 3D model printing and whatnot, this is more than adequate enough. And if the GPU doesn't have enough horsepower for that down the road, I can stick my 3070 in this thing and it'll run even better. And apparently if I update the BIOS on this thing, it can handle 9th gens, and on top of that, K variant 9th gens. If I am going to get a K variant, it's going to be the current 8th gen K variant of this thing. I would like to put a 9th in here, but for now, I'm just going to use the processors in here because, again, I don't know what I actually need. I just know for now, this is more than adequate enough. And another part I forgot to mention that 3D printed off was this little hard drive bracket. This is printed off of PLA, and it's holding up just fine. Let's start off with the idle temps, and it's actually idling a lot more cooler than I thought it would. So with that said, now to make the computer, or well, the CPU hate life. And to do that, why not use Cyberpunk? With that said, it's already at 200 Fahrenheit, just idling at this screen right here. I haven't even gotten into the game yet. And the noise output, she's very noisy. Well, just loading the game, it gets very noisy and it gets very, very hot. That little CPU cooler is running its butt off. And I saw it go to like 215 at some point. That little cooler is not really good for this computer. And what I'll do now is I'll just let everything sit for like 30 minutes or so. So I'll come back when necessary. One thing I don't like about Cyberpunk is that it just likes to sometimes just reset all the settings that I had. I turn ray tracing off and I set everything to either medium or high depending on the computer I'm playing on at the given moment. So I had to go over and change all the settings back over. So now I'm getting a more reasonable frame rate. Now, I could get higher frame rate on this if I really wanted to, if I set everything to medium, but it's a 3D printer computer. I don't think I'll be playing Cyberpunk on this thing that often. I only have it on because, well, it's one of my more demanding games, and it'll absolutely make this computer hate life, or, well, in this case, the CPU cooler hate life. It's around 9:15, so I'll come back at 9:45. Might as well give a quick update on what's going on with my 3D printing. I'm getting the upper portion of Cappy printed off. This is the other half. I got the first half right here printed off. It took about 12 hours to do. The other one's going to take about 13. And I have all this right here also printed off. I'm waiting for some blue filament to come in so I can finish up the other part of Cappy's hip area and whatnot. But this is currently where I'm at, and so far everything's going by relatively fine. Alright, 30 minutes have passed, and it's very hot and very noisy. Alright, it looks like my local Free Geek also is reapplying thermal paste. Now, again, Free Geek is a non-profit, so we tend to not have the best stuff out there. But it's nice to see that they even went through the process of reapplying thermal paste in the first place. So I'm going to be using the good stuff though. Now, since this CPU cooler is going to be new, this thermal paste is ancient. So obviously I'm going to remove this and get everything else all set up and come back when necessary. Alright, with the new heatsink in, let's see if I killed the computer. I don't see any flashing lights, that's good. And we got a post screen. So I'll wait for the thing to boot up and I'll come back. Well, the idle temps seem to be a little bit cooler, so at least we're off to a good start there. Though it is still technically booting up, so Windows is doing all its phoning home crap. But so far I am seeing a bit of an improvement. Well, idling here at the main menu, it's still hot, unfortunately. But it's not that near 200 that it was, and at least the noise all level. It's definitely a little noisy, but not like it was. So I think for the giggles, I'll just let it sit like this for a little bit before I actually load back into the game again. Alright, looks like the average temp is going to be around 180 or so when it's idling at the home screen. So it has picked up a little bit of noise, so the CPU fan is doing its job. But obviously that CPU cooler has definitely made a difference on the temperature. Again, obviously I prefer it to be a lot more cooler than this. If I could manually fan tune the thing, I would do it, but I can't seem to find a way to do it. So with that said, let's now load into the game itself and see what it's like. Alright, we are now in game. So just like before, I'm going to let it sit for 30 minutes. Which means I'll be coming back at 11. Alright, it's been 30 minutes. And the overall temps are unfortunately still very hot. And again, it's because I just can't manually control how the thing cools itself. But it is definitely cooler. It's not at 200 like it was. It's in the 180s and 190s. Though the one thing I do find surprising though is the GPU is actually running cooler. Especially considering when it comes to its only intake is that little guy right there. So surprisingly enough, swapping out the CPU cooler actually makes the GPU cooler. Interesting, whatever. Noise level wise, it's definitely noisy. But I kind of like the noise it's making. It's also a lot more quieter, personally, to me at least. So I'd say the 50 bucks I spent on that CPU cooler was very much worth it. And since I forgot to show the CPU cooler in the case, here it is in all its glory. And generally speaking, it, like I said, it runs hot, unfortunately, but it does do its job. And one thing I have noticed, obviously, because well, I removed the CPU fan, or well, the what do we call this thing, and obviously the temperatures are now going down because it can actually keep itself nice and cool. Go figure. But either way, I say this is very much worth it, at least for me. Again, this is going to be my 3D printer computer. I don't think I'm going to be playing Cyberpunk on this thing. So the fact it's able to bring down the temps as much as it has, I see it as a worthwhile purchase. One thing I do want to quickly mention before I end off this video is how quickly the thing just quieted down significantly. Once I closed off Cyberpunk, the main CPU fan just basically went all the way down, and the temps are now idling at this. So again, that CPU cooler is more or less worth the purchase, at least again for me. For giggles, before I put it back out in the kitchen to do its 3D printing tasks yet again, I decided to see what will happen when I open up Orca Slicer and do a slice. It went full jet mode, so with that said, let's see if I can get to do it again. But when it's done doing its slicing, it's nice and quiet again. Whatever. Either way, CPU cooler still, at least for me, very much worth it. So with that said, now to put this in back where it normally sits and finish up this video. Alright, got the computer set back up again. And of course here is the actual main 3D printer setup and whatnot. I purposely chose this small portable monitor because of the size constraints I have. And this is a 1080p monitor on top of that, so it's a nice little monitor. And this little setup is more than all I need for 3D printing and whatnot. So with that said, I think the video is now done. And I also want to show where I'm currently at with the other side of Cappy's upper body, and as you can see, it is actually fairly close to being done. It's got about 3 hours to go, give or take. So yeah, that's more or less the finished part of the video.